Hi, do you like chocolate cake? Me too. Have you been in a situation where you say, you know what, I really want a chocolate cake right now, but the store's gone, my oven, I've got free heat, but I have a microwave. So you can make a mug cake. Well, that's what we're here to do today. Now, let's be real, because we do need to be honest with ourselves. Mug cakes aren't good. They're just not. But I have 4 different recipes for us to try today. Because somewhere in the middle, we can find something that's good enough. And sometimes that's all you can ask for. Just what's good enough for right now and my cravings. So that's what we're going to test. Because we want to see, you know, which one has the best consistency, the best texture, the best chocolate flavor, ooey goody goodness. Which one actually bakes all the way through, because sometimes they don't really bake. They say, oh, it's fine, it's fine. It's not. It's not fine. I want a cake, not, you know, molten lava. It's not good. So that is what we're going to do today. So here are the collection of recipes we're going to do today. As you can see, we have a nice farmyard animal theme, because look at these adorable mugs. How could we not? And each recipe on the back has the recipe split up for you. So as I'm going ahead and putting it together, you'll have that so it's available on screen for you. So we're going to get started with recipe A. We're going to put all the ingredients together. We're going to do that for the rest of them, and then we're going to put them all in the microwave together and just do the same bake time, just to give them all an even chance. Because sometimes they say different bake times. It's a microwave. You're really just hoping for the best. Baking needs to be precise, but not when it comes to a microwave. Hi, welcome to my kitchen nook. I'm going to start with recipe A. Because this recipe doesn't call for an egg or sugar or things like that, I'm not going to start with the wet ingredients first. Normally I would start with wet ingredients, but for this one we're going to just start with the dry. This one calls for 1/4 cup of flour. So that's what we're going to start with, our lovely, dovey Bob's Red Milk. It's my favorite. This one, you know, it's really is the best when you're trying to do gluten-free. So we have 1/4 cup of flour. Make sure you shake it out. Try to make sure it's even as possible. Then we're just gonna toss that in there. And then we have 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder. You always, when you do cocoa powder, you want to go for quality. You really do. So I'm using premium, the Sacco Pantry. Never read that. But you want to try to go for something like that. So we have 1 teaspoon. And this one, again, you want to make sure that it is level. So I'll take my other one, just level it out, and then dump her in there. After that, we have 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. So again, Bob's Red Milk, gluten-free, 1/4 teaspoon. It's amazing that they have ones like this tiny, because at that point, like, why? Now this, I am a bit conflicted, because sometimes the more baking powder you add, the fluffier it'll get. You're also really not supposed to do that. It doesn't call for it. But we might heap it up a little bit, if you can see that. And then we have 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. Now this is something I'm excited about because I've never baked with maple syrup before. I've never done this. So I'm very curious to see what it's going to be like. Like you normally would with dry ingredients, we're going to mix this up first. Just give it a nice little whisk, you know, since we do have the baking powder in there, we want to give it a chance to start activating just a little bit. Give it nice a little bit, nice and shake. That's good. All right, and now we're going to add in the maple syrup. As you will notice, this recipe doesn't call for any sugar. That's because there's maple syrup in it. It's acting as a sweetener. So you can feel good about this one because it's a little bit healthy. Just gonna go for it. Keep it all in. Wow. That looks beautiful. It really does. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. The last thing we're going to do is 2 tablespoons of milk. I use coconut milk because along with being allergic to wheat, I'm also lactose intolerant. Your cat is loving my shoe right now. Well, Juno. Oh. We're doing 2 tablespoons, so excuse me. 1, 2. Wonderful. And now, we want to take a look at that in there. We're just gonna stir her up and see what happens. Now here is where we need to contemplate. Do we add in chocolate chips to this recipe? Or do we not? Because sometimes chocolate chips burn in the microwave. Look at this. This is starting to turn into a really nice texture actually. I'm actually pretty excited about this. I think what I'll do is for each one, right as we're about to put it in the microwave, I'll add in just a sprinkle of chocolate chips to the top, and that should melt nicely. Oh my god, whoa, this actually seems really good. I'm actually pretty impressed with this texture. I've never experienced a texture like this before with a mug cake. All right, we're gonna leave this one to the side and get ready on recipe B. This one calls for 1 tablespoon of butter, which we're gonna have to melt a little bit, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of milk, 2 tablespoons of flour, and 1/4 tablespoon of baking powder. With this one, because it calls for butter, we are going to pre-melt the butter. So, like I use coconut milk, I'm also using Earth Balance dairy-free butter, and I'm going to get our 1 tablespoon of butter ready to go. Just gonna get that nice little scoop. That's probably good. We're gonna dump that in there, and then we're going to pop it in the microwave for 15 seconds. This one isn't as simple as a one and go, but it'll probably be worth it. We'll see. So we're just gonna give that nice quick little stir, and now the butter is melted. Enough. And now, because I started with our wet ingredients, I'm gonna continue with the wet ingredients. So the next thing we're gonna add is the milk, and then I'm gonna add in the sugar, and we're gonna get to that. So milk, we're gonna need 2 tablespoons of milk. 1, 2. Next, I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of sugar. I need your sugar. Sugar has been flown in, so I'm gonna go ahead and get 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a little stir. When you stir together sugar and butter, it just helps to make it a little bit fluffy. Usually also if you have an egg, we don't have an egg here, but I like to just give this a little bit of a stir, incorporate it just a little bit. Helps to give it a nice fluffy consistency, just a little bit. Now we're going to go on to the flour, baking powder, and cocoa powder. So with flour, we need 2 tablespoons again. I like this recipe because it's pretty simple, just 2 tablespoons. That's all you need to know. And then we need 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Like I said, 2, 2, 2. This should be the 2, 2, 2 recipe. We get that in there. Cocoa powder is amazing. Scrape that off. 1, 2. And then lastly, we need 1/4 tablespoon of baking powder. Actually, you know, I think that's wrong. I think I wrote it as tablespoon, but that's a lot of baking powder. I think it's supposed to be teaspoon. So I'm gonna go with my gut here and just say teaspoon. Or, I've decided. I'm going with 1/4 teaspoon baking powder, and we're just gonna do a little heaping, and that's fine. Let's go. Just gonna mix in. So this looks like a nice brownie batter, honestly. It's turning out pretty good. It's not as thick as recipe A, but it is looking good. Just try to do your best, because it is a mug, to scrape down the sides as best as you can. I might go in with a spoon later just to really scrape down everything. But that is ready to be put to the side. This one's probably the simplest, I would say, out of the 4. It's 2 tablespoons flour, 1 tablespoon cocoa powder, 1/2 teaspoon baking powder, a pinch of salt, and 5 tablespoons of milk. That is a lot of milk. So we're gonna see, this one might be more like a pudding. Sometimes when you microwave mug recipes, they turn into more of like a pudding. Let's be real. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Salt. What do we name him? Timmy?
Timmy.
Who's Timmy? Alright,
Yeah.
there we go. There we go. And
Timmy.
we add in salt because salt really helps to activate the chocolate flour. So that should be a nice addition. And then 5 tablespoons of milk. That, I don't know about that, but okay. Alright, so I'm gonna give this again just a quick little whisk together. Give everything a chance to incorporate before we add in the milk. That looks perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I am nervous about this one. Don't let us down. It's bubbling. Look at that. Ooh, I'm not sure about this one. So, it kind of looks like soup, melted ice cream, but sometimes that can be surprising. Sometimes you put in a cake batter and it's completely liquid and then it turns out wonderful. We will see. This one could maybe use a longer bake time than what I'm going to give them all, but what we're doing is we're just testing the recipes as is. It could use more flour, but we're just going to see what the recipe tells us to do and see what comes out best. Now this one, recipe B, may be the most cake-like because it does call for an egg. This recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of butter, gotta melt the butter, a half cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and an egg. Butter is melted, and now we're going to add in the egg. Beautiful. Moving on to half a cup of sugar. This one, we are slowly realizing, maybe too big for the pig. But we're gonna see what happens. It's all fun experiments. You wanna make sure when you are measuring out things like this, you always give a nice little shake, make sure it is even and that we're getting exactly what we want. So we're gonna pour that in. Oh my gosh. Whoops. And then we're gonna whisk it up. Oh, when you whisk together milk, egg, and butter, the longer you whisk it, the fluffier it'll be. When you make brownies and you want them to be fluffy, you mix them at this stage for a very long time. I've mixed for as long as I can care enough to. We're going to move on to the final dry ingredients. So we need 3 tablespoons of flour and then 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Which is interesting because this means it doesn't call for any baking powder. Ooh, okay. This is gonna be interesting.
Hey, it's not exploding out as bad as I thought it would be.
Oh! Sorry.
Spoke too soon.
It's starting to thicken. You just need to incorporate it all. Now it has really thickened up. Again, kind of looks like a nice brownie batter. And I think we're ready to go. Here we can see all the batters. This is recipe A. I'm a little concerned about this one. It has a very dry texture. It doesn't even fill up, you know, as you can see, the entire width of the mug. So we're gonna see what happens with that. It might surprise us. Moving on to B. This one I think is the most promising. It's not too wet, it's not too dry. It has a nice consistency. It looks like brownie batter. It might turn out pretty nice. Moving on to C. This one, I could drink it. This one has the most milk in it. I'm very curious to see how this one will go. It might turn out the most runny. We will see. And then lastly, our big boy here. This one, it has an egg, it has milk, it has butter in it. It's cake. This is cake batter. This is just straight up cake batter. If you want an actual cake, you would put this in the oven instead of the microwave. That's not what we're here to do today. So this one, honestly, I'm expecting it to rise a lot. It probably won't cook in the entire time that we're giving, because I'm just gonna give them all like a minute. That's what my plan is, just give them all a minute. I do worry about chocolate burning in the microwave. I worry about it when you do mug cakes and you overcook them, then the texture turns really hard and it's not enjoyable at all. In this case, I'd rather it be just a little bit runny than hard, because then it's just not fun at all. The last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna dump in a little bit of mini chocolate chips on the top of each one. Give it a nice little chance to be delicious. This one, I don't know what to expect from this one. Just, I'm sorry in advance. And they're gonna drown in this one. There you go. Perfect. As I said, we're putting them all in for a minute. This is our little test, our little experiment to see which one's the winner in the time constraint. We're just gonna give them all a fair chance because honestly, with some of them, I could have added different ingredients. I could have tried it, you know, the recipe A could use more moisture, but we're just gonna test it. Recipe C could use more flour, but we're just gonna see what happens with our little experiment and just go for it. Let's get a pick. Ooh. Oh no. Okay. Okay. Alright. Thoughts? We're gonna cook them longer. Let's see. Now it smells more like chocolatey. Okay. Okay, you're still liquid. What? Alright, you're done. What? Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's not what you want. Take a look at the chicken. It looks... Ooh. So I lied. That one, it's gonna burn if we don't. So I'm gonna give these guys a bit longer. This is quite strange because normally mug cakes need like a minute 30. I don't know what's going on here, but I do want them to be somewhat edible. These aren't edible yet. Third time's the charm. Okay. You're jiggly. What? See, this one I don't like because the edges are cooked. Ooh, but then, huh? This is going awry. All right. So, yeah, you know what? Let's try to bake them separately. I'm gonna give this one 50 seconds. Like I said, this is the actual, like, it's straight up batter. So 2 minutes. Okay, so maybe baking them all at the same time was a bad thing, but this is ready. So now we just have Mr. Pig here that I'm not quite sure. We're gonna give it a fair go. I'm gonna give it a minute 30 and see what happens. Fingers crossed. Okay, steam is coming out. Hey, it did it. Welcome to Taste Corner. Now, like I said at the start of this video, mug cakes aren't good. You can't expect quality out of a mug cake. You can expect good enough. It's 9 p.m. I want chocolate. It's not 9 p.m., but I do want chocolate. Pig here is still steaming, so we're gonna put him to the side. And we're gonna start with recipe A. Now let's take a look at this texture. It did not change. The texture did not change. But it's safe to eat because there's no egg in it. So I'm just gonna, oh. Okay. So that's what it is. It smells like maple syrup. That's what I'm expecting it to taste like.
A lot is going on in your head right now.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. I told you it'd be surprising. It's actually pretty good. There's an aftertaste of maple syrup. Okay, so it doesn't really taste like chocolate. It kind of just tastes like maple syrup. But the texture is good. It doesn't taste grainy. It doesn't taste too liquidy. It's not too hot. It almost tastes like a very cheap fudge. It's not bad, honestly. Like, this is a one. It was simple ingredients. If you have maple syrup and you have some cocoa powder and some flour, I would recommend this one. You know, this was the easiest to bake. You pop it in for a minute, you don't have to worry about it. It's fine. So here we have recipe B. This one I said at the start seems most promising. It looks the most like brownie batter. It looks cooked. So let's give it a go. All right, slides out. It's a pretty nice texture. Get some runny chocolate. Oh my gosh. It actually tastes like a brownie. I'm actually, ooh, that's actually a really nice texture. Let's take a look at that. You see, that's like a nice cake texture. That's what you want when you want a cake. You want the texture. All right, I'm saving you for later. Here's recipe C. This was the one that was the most liquidy to start. This one we had to microwave quite a few times. And as you saw, I had to mix in some of the outer edges that were cooked in with the liquid. So it looks a little weird. Let's be honest. Okay. It looks cooked. The texture, it feels like rubber. Let's give it a go. Was there sugar in this one? Alright, so there wasn't any sugar in this one. I don't know how to describe it, but it kind of, like the outer edges were like a rubbery consistency, and then he bit in, it kind of like felt like a gush, but it wasn't a gush because it was still cooked through. It just like didn't taste good. Sorry, we're done with you. So here's our big boy. He microwaved for quite a while. He's still very warm, but you know, ooh, that's very moist though. Let's give him a go and just see. It has the potential to be a good cake. Like, this is something, it makes a lot. And if you're like eating your feels, I could eat all this. And I might. But I'm not sure if this one was worth it. This one, again, like I said, would probably be better if you baked it in an oven, not in the microwave for 3 minutes. Final results. This one, number one, recipe A. While it was the simplest to make, it didn't really taste like chocolate. It kind of just tasted like maple syrup. But the texture was nice. Recipe B tasted like brownie batter. Pretty simple. I believe this one was the 2 tablespoon recipe. I like that one. Recipe C. It tasted like rubber. The texture was rubber. That's all I can really describe it as, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. And recipe D has the potential. It had to cook for a really long time in the microwave. Call for an egg, call for butter. It involved a lot, and that's not really what you're looking for in a mug cake. Final verdict. I'm gonna put this in order. And this is where we're at. If you want to try any of these, I would recommend recipe B. That was the most simple. If you're just curious about what maple syrup does with cocoa powder, try recipe A. It's really not that bad. I'll probably finish that one too. This one, I'm not gonna finish it. There's too much oil in it from the butter and the sugar and everything. I just don't really want it. And this one, this is just a fun experience. Like if you're just curious, like, what do you mean it turned into rubber? Part of it's probably how we cooked it, but it's still kind of fun. I'm gonna make you try. You're gonna have to try to taste it.
I'll try it.
Yeah, that's where we're at with these mug cakes. Like I said, they're not good, but they're good enough. And that's all we can really ask for in this life. What's good enough? This has been Easy Gluten-Free and me. I hope you enjoyed watching me fail trying to make mug cakes. I've never done this many all at once. Probably recommend to bake them separately in the microwave because apparently that matters. It's a microwave, it shouldn't matter. It's all radiation. And here we go. You know, if you want to try one of these, I definitely recommend it. Give them a go. Give recipe C a go. Tell me if it turns into rubber. I'm curious. What did I do wrong here? Try the maple one, not that bad if you're more health conscious, you don't want sugar in it. Honestly, pretty good. I'm gonna eat it, honestly, I'm gonna finish it. But don't bother with recipe D, just don't. If you're gonna go through the hassle to make recipe D, bake it in the oven. All right, so thank you. Make sure to follow me in all the things. As always, I don't think I ever had a sign off, but have fun.